Hello, I'm Regnance, and today I'm going to cover startup, takeoff, basic flight performance, landing, and maybe a few other tests in this beautiful Focke-Wulf 190 D-9. Let's get to it. So we're starting with the cold and dark Focke-Wulf 190, and the first thing we need to do is turn on the circuit breakers. So starting here, we have our main battery power and then all these other circuit breakers that are going to put some life into this plane. This one is our external lights, which I'm going to leave off. And then we have some more circuit breakers. If I get my head down low enough, there's a little switch here that I can click to the left, sorry. And this looks like a gear handle, but it's actually the fuel pumps. Magnetos to on. Sadly, you can't click the throttle to move it out of its idle detent, but you can use right alt and home. Here you can see that the landing gear has a little protective cover for the up button so you don't accidentally press it. Both landing gear and flaps are in the full down position. Yellow in the middle is for takeoff flaps and red is for flight. This is our trimmer switch. We can check that our trim is neutral and trim up and down as needed. Let's just trim up just a touch, but I don't want to waste the battery power. All set. This is our boost switch. So this enables MW50 boost, forwards to on, backwards to off. We don't need it for takeoff. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the canopy. Just scrolling with my mouse, canopy closed and locked. And to start, now that the magnetos fuel pumps are active, I have battery power and throttle unlocked. I remove the starter cover and pull the starter. Hear it rev up. Sounds like that's about as strong as it's going to get, so here goes. And lights first time. Beauty. Alright. We're a little cold, so the engine could do with a bit of warming up. Going to open my oxygen. That's an important one to not forget. We're set to forwards fuel tank. I'm going to set us to a rear fuel tank first because I believe that one drains slightly faster. I'm going to set the enemy wing width to about this first marker, which is roughly right for Spitfires, Mustangs, and P-47s. Our gun sight's on. If I scroll, I can make the sight smaller or larger. And I'll just set it to something that's comfortable for my viewing. This is the master arm. I'm not going to turn that on the ground. But I am ready to taxi to the very nearby runway. Now for taxiing, holding the stick back will lock the tail wheel, and pushing it forwards will unlock the tail wheel. First thing, I'm going to taxi for a little bit with the stick back. And if I put, for example, full left wheel brake like this, she'll slide a bit. Full right wheel brake, but be quite controllable. If I push the stick all the way forwards, which has unlocked the tail wheel, and for example, I put full right brake, she glides a little bit more. However, this is a lot more friendly than, say, a 109 or a Spitfire. This plane does not like to ground loop. And in fact, I'm going to keep that tail wheel unlocked as I get the nose around point towards the threshold. The far threshold, that is. And we are on the runway. Not perfectly aligned, but it should be easy to fix. I'm just controlling with the wheel brakes. The rudder doesn't do too much at low speed. I can confirm my boosters off. I'm going to go to takeoff flaps. There's a little window. I'll zoom in so you can see it easier. There's a little window with a number that says how many degrees of flap you have. And there's also these red mechanical indicators to confirm that the gear is down. So now we're at 15 degrees of flap approximately for takeoff. I'm going to just chuck my brakes on, open the throttler crack. Our temperatures are a little cold, but we should be fine. Releasing brakes and smoothly throttling up. Slight back pressure on the stick to keep the tail wheel locked. And I can smoothly go all the way to full power. Very little rudder input required to keep her straight. Backing off to stick neutral position and pushing forward slightly to get that tail up. 200 kilometers per hour, let's rotate. And now I lift up my gear retraction cover, retract my gear. I can confirm with the mechanical indicators that my gear is going up. They're clear of all obstacles. We can also now retract the flaps. And in a previous test, I found that about 1.5 ATO can be used as a continuous power in this module. So we don't have to reduce power after takeoff. And we can actually climb like this. So this feels like a very comfortable climb rate to me. I'm doing about 330 kilometers per hour, and I have a climb rate of about 18 meters per second. Now that is roughly on the level of what you'd get out of a 109 G6 or G10. The K4 should be able to do a little bit better. And I'd also think something like a G2 would be able to do better. If I want to push this though, I could switch it to boost and go from 1.5 to around 1.9 ATA. And now my climb rate's jumped up another 4 or 5 meters per second. But I don't really need the boost at the moment, so I'm going to drop out of it. You can be quite rough with the boost and the engine controls. This plane is very forgiving. I'm going to click my weapons to arm, not that there's any targets in this mission. And let's do a gentle turn. Unlike the A8 module in DCS, the D-9 does feel quite responsive on the roll. One important thing to note with this plane is that the elevator has a lot of control, I guess would be the right word. It doesn't take much elevator to do what you want to do most of the time. And if you pull too hard, you'll just stall the plane. But it is useful to have that full elevator capacity there sometimes. And I think that's why this plane was designed that way. I'm not running any curves on my stick, and I think that's quite fine with this plane because I believe the actual Focke-Wulf had mechanical curves built into it. And so I've just leveled off a bit. I'm still climbing, doing 480 kilometers per hour. Engine temperatures look good. So let's actually demonstrate why this engine is so good. So first off, a good old test is upside down flight. If I fly upside down, she doesn't initially cut out like a Spitfire might. But after a while, she will complain. We might have to wait a bit, though. There we go. She does rough out a bit, and then stop working properly. I think she's just spinning over, and that there is no light. I don't hear any ignition. And I can bring my throttle back to idle or up, and the note of the engine will change, and this is most likely the mechanical governor adjusting the prop pitch. But then if I just roll back out to level, she comes back all by herself, and you can do this with or without boost. I've also, in one test flight, just run out this non-boosted power until I ran out of fuel and didn't have any engine trouble. So I do think that you can run at quite high power settings with this plane, and I've managed to do a 10-minute stint in full boost. So definitely the boosted options are not emergency power in the classical sense where you would be destroying your engine in a few minutes. These boosted options are meant to be used, and used extensively. So for some more flight performance tests, if we do, say, a full hard stick over left roll, we get about this roll. It's nice, it's nothing super snappy, not like you might get in some modern jets, but it's not terrible either. However, there's ways to spice things up a little bit. If I pull back on the stick and roll, it's still not going to do much. But suppose I give a boot of left rudder as I do it. That made things a little more exciting. This plane can flick stall easily. There's a trick to it. It's about entering a spin and then recovering really quickly. So if I pull back left aileron, left rudder, and then I hit right rudder here, and I'm out. This may or may not be practical in combat, but sometimes you just need to get upside down really quick. So it depends on your fight. This plane's good at scissors fighting, so for example, you want to pull a barrel roll, you can do quite tight barrel rolls, but be mindful of your speed and your angle of attack. It's all too easy to pull too far. Let's exemplify pulling too far. I've got the stick full back, put a bit of rudder in, and she wants to tuck under and spin. Provided you're aware that this plane will try to tuck downwards and drop the low wing, it's not too hard to counteract. You just have to be quick on the opposite rudder and back off the aileron. I'll spin her properly. Let's go full back stick, full left, full left. Here she wants to go into a spin, kind of. Let go, she's still going. Push right rudder in. She didn't even really need the help. She kind of came out of that on her own. It's really a plane that does want to keep flying. You have to be very ham-fisted to force her to spin. Let's try again. Pump in the elevator this time. So I'm pumping some down elevator in, and you can see that we are getting a lot of roll rate, but no departure of coordinated flight. And here's just a unassisted roll for the record, which, to be honest, is comparatively fast, and I think might be a more effective way to roll in combat, because flick rolling does dump more energy because of higher drag. Let's actually do some right-hand flick rolls. These ones seem to... Oh, she doesn't like that. You can see there. I'm also running this still not at boost. Engine temps are still in their brackets. If we look at the... It's a bit hard to see the radiators. I'll zoom in. And I can maybe show from an external view. If you look at the front of the plane... no, it's not quite visible. But the radiators do seem to automatically control themselves. Okay, let's do a top end speed demonstration. So if I just tuck into the deck, I'm just going to tuck in on runway heading so I can find my way back home. So we're going through 600 kilometers per hour on the dive. And on previous tests, I've been able to do 590-ish. And you can see that the energy retention is quite good. I'm going to just trim down a touch. Keep things smooth. And looks like I need a little bit of left rudder based on that slip indicator. Interesting to have a plane that needs a left rudder. Gotta find the right groove for it. And we're doing... I'd say that's about 600. Oh, we've got a slight descent. Let's trim up a little maybe. And that ground's a bit dark, but we've got clearance. So there we go, 590-ish. And maybe about a 1 meter per second climb. And that airspeed meter isn't going down. And we might be sinking now because I'm looking at my controls too much. Let's climb a little bit so that we can get our speed up again, and I'll demonstrate top speed with boost. I'll click boost in as we go. Boost is something you don't have to be afraid to click. The engine automatic governor knows what it's doing. And we can tuck in the ground 620, maybe 630 knots. Kilometers per hour, sorry, too used to jets. And I'll just set that gun sight on the horizon. And we're just slightly faster. For a considerable boost in manifold pressure, it's actually not a major boost in top end speed, but we can now do about 610 kilometers per hour. Maybe a bit more like 600. Hard to tell. I checked up a flight manual and they suggested a maximum speed of 606 in the real life Focke-Wulf. But yeah, approximately 600 is the top end speed. I don't think the boost is particularly worth it for top end, because it's only a gain of maybe 20 kilometers per hour. But where the boost shines is in climb rate improvement and in low end maneuvering, where you need that bit extra power. And we can see that the engine temperature is still perfectly fine. Okay, let's do a max performance zoom climb. Now, the one way you can destroy your engine, and I'm not going to demonstrate it here, is you can helicopter pointing your nose up vertically in this plane while on full power and hang at under 50 kilometers per hour for maybe 10 seconds or so. And this destroys your engine because it absolutely overheats. And if you destroy your engine that way, well, you deserve to have your engine destroyed. So we're at about 250 kilometers per hour, and I'm just going to come out of this rapid climb. And we gained about 1,000 meters, I'd say. All right, let's go looking for where the airfield was. We'll be out that way, I believe. Go to consult my zoomed in view. There we go. So again, I haven't really been demonstrating any kind of tight turns in this plane. This plane is not really a rate or radius fighter. It's quite a good energy fighter though. But she can turn tight for a small instant. Like, say you need to break the enemy's aim on you, or you want to get a gun solution, so let's demonstrate that. It's rough, but it is tighter than what she'd normally do. And it's not Spitfire level, but you can somewhat dump your speed. If you drop your flaps a bit, that can also help, but yeah, not really a tight turner, but can make use of trading airspeed for turn. If you have to get in a turning fight, I'd suggest keeping your speed above 350 and just dealing with it from an energy perspective. Let's just demo a little bit more again. If you get a bit of a dive in the turn as well, you can get also gravity helping. Again, it's just going to want to kick around because you're asking too much angle of attack. I could put my flaps in at this speed. Let's go for some good old takeoff flaps. And again, she's just right on the edge. Doesn't like it. But if you're in a dogfight against a P-47 or a P-51, one of the, you know, something not super maneuverable, you have options. The better option is to force an overshoot and then get in the control zone from that, or energy fight, which is where I believe this plane will be at its greatest. Up next, I'll be actually demonstrating some dogfights, but first off, let's do a landing. So airfield's off to the left. Going to come down to idle. There's no wind, so I don't need to worry about my approach direction. Lift the master arm off. Bleed away some airspeed. Flaps all the way down. They're going to take a moment to come down anyway. Airspeed's getting low enough. Let's put our landing gear down. Put the safety cover on. Powering up just a little for the turn. There's the airfield off our left. At about 9 o'clock. Approach speed is higher in this plane than in, say, BF-109. If you have too much sink rate, you can collapse the landing gear. And in an emergency situation, don't be afraid to belly skid. If you can be very smooth with it, you can belly skid even at high speed. I would greatly prioritize smoothness in belly skidding of this plane over airspeed. So we can confirm mechanical indicators and flap indicators suggest that everything is down as it should be. There's a bit of zoom to see the runway. It is quite dark. I feel like I'm landing blind at the moment, but just gonna keep the power on, just fly by feel. I think it's about 220 kilometers per hour, and this feels about right for her. Okay, that's threshold, so I'm going to come back onto power. I can't see the runway. I can cross my fingers on my throttle hand. Little bounce. She feels okay. I'm just going to hold the stick right back to keep that tail wheel attached. Oh, and that looks like a fence, so I'm going to apply a bit of brakes. Okay, I think I landed a little bit too far down the runway, but I believe we are in otherwise perfect condition. Well, There you go. Not a scratch. I'm just going to put the left wheel brake on. Drive her over to what I believe is the parking lot. They really need to just mow the whole lawn, I think, and save us the trouble of deciding where to land. As you can see, a wide landing gear makes life easy. Is this the parking lot? I feel it's not. But anyway, I shall park her here. The ground crew can give her a push if need be. Oxygen off. Don't want to waste it. And then for shutdown, let's click the big red button. And the other big red button. And pop off the magnetos and fuel tank, and then the engine to idle, which would be left alternate end, I believe. Yes. And then click all these. Okay, the big red button might not be the button to press. I was thinking of the 109, which has a red paddle button. I'll have to look into what those do. Those might be jettisons. And we can open the canopy. That back to half. Another happy landing. See you in the next video.